Hi everyone, Gene here. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, where every single week we answer the most common and uncommon questions about tapping so you can get the most out of your tapping practice. You can eliminate self-sabotage to take the actions that you want. Today is a little bit of a special podcast. This is actually episode 400. I know it's episode 345 in the numbering context, but there was some bonus episodes and some two-part episodes, and back before I really figured out the numbering convention, we add some odd numbers in the beginning. But this is episode 400. So first of all, thank you for taking time to spend time with me. If this is your first episode, if this is your 400th episode, I really appreciate the fact you listen to the podcast. That means in the archive, we have over 400 topics that have been covered that you can use tapping for to eliminate self-sabotage. There have been some amazing interviews. There's some great tap-alongs. There's stories from people like you who have used tapping. Please go to tappingpodcast.com, and there you'll see the entire archive. If you haven't done so already, it'll show you how you can get the episodes delivered absolutely free every single week to your smartphone, to your smart device, to your computer. Please take advantage of that. This week, we are doing part 4 of the Pro You series, questions and approaches that you can take to take care of yourself in the new year. If you haven't checked out parts 1, 2, and 3, those are episodes 342, 343, and 344, which you can also find at tappingpodcast.com. This is Gene Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 345, originally aired January 9th, 2019. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are, whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. I hope the new year is treating you well. This is the 4th part in our series of making pro-you choices. And what I mean by a pro-you choice is a choice that is in favor of or is taking care of you. I have found that my listeners are thoughtful, generous, kind-hearted people. And because of this, we have a tendency to not take care of ourselves in the way that we need to. And so this 4-part series has just been some really simple ideas and some really simple tap-alongs that you can do to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And today, the idea is just because something is a problem doesn't mean it is our problem. And I can tell some of you are already clenching up just at the thought of that, because you are the type of person who everybody comes to, that when something goes wrong, they show up. And I am all for the people in my life reaching out to me for help. I am all for being helpful. I want to be thoughtful. I want to be kind. I want to be deliberate. I want to take care of those people around me. But the problem comes when people are no longer coming to us for help, but instead are simply coming to us and have us solve the problem for them. And so the place that I always want to find myself is I always want to find myself in the position where I am responsible to the people around me, but I'm not responsible for the people around me. And there's a real subtle difference inside of that concept. When I am responsible for, I am taking on the burden and I am saying I am the one that is going to take care of it. When I'm responsible to the people in my life, then when they are in a moment of burden, when they are in a moment of struggle, what I'm doing is I'm showing up to be helpful. I am friend, I am ally, I am family member, I am encourager. I share my knowledge, I share my experience. I might even help out in solving the problem. But it doesn't mean it is my problem. It's still their problem. And again, I know that there are some of you right now who are just like, that's so unkind, that's so unhelpful, I'm being mean if I do that. And that's the exact reason why we need to spend some time dealing with this issue. Because if you find yourself being responsible for the people around you, you're creating a problem. Because you could decide that I am going to be responsible for your problem, and I could decide I am going to be responsible for your problem. That doesn't work because it is impossible for me to be responsible for you. I can be responsible to you. I can take care of you in lots of ways. But even if both of us want me to be responsible for you, I can't do that. And so that's only going to lead to a place of struggle. It's only going to lead to a place of heartache. And a number of years ago, it was actually close to a decade ago now, I realized the fact that I had created a really porous boundary between myself and one of my loved ones. It was a really good friend of mine. And the reason I had created that really porous boundary was because of the way that our lives were connected. If something went wrong in their life, it made my life more complicated. And so it was easy for me to rush in and solve problems because if I solved the problem in the short term, I was also helping myself out in the short term. But the problem was, over the long term, every time something went wrong, the person immediately reached out to me to solve the problem, even if it was something that they could solve themselves. And so the way that I started dealing with this was twofold. One, doing some tapping like we're going to do here in a little bit. And two, by naming this, when they shared a problem with me, I had to train myself. And sometimes I had to do this through gritted teeth. I had to say, that really sucks. And that phrase was really intentionally chosen because what I was doing in that phrase is I was making the statement that I acknowledge that what you are going through is hard. It actually is a problem. But I wasn't offering advice. I wasn't offering help. I wasn't swooping in to solve the problem. Now, that didn't mean I stopped helping because there was a certain percentage of the time, let's say about a third of the time, where it actually was useful for me to be helpful, that I provided something that they couldn't do on their own, and my assistance and me wanting to provide that assistance was a good thing. But 2/3 of the time, it wasn't the case. And so over a period of time, as I kept responding, boy, that really sucks. I'm really sorry you're going through that. Boy, that must be really hard. What happened was it didn't impact the nature of the relationship. The relationship stayed just as close. But what started happening is the person stopped showing up to me immediately something went wrong. And they spent more time trying to solve the problem themselves. And then once it got to the point that they couldn't do that, then they started reaching out. So they started reaching out less. And the times that they were reaching out was the times that was appropriate. And so what I was doing in that process is I was renegotiating that boundary. I was renegotiating what the expectations were so that I could be in a place where I was being helpful at the times that it was appropriate for me to be helpful. A big thank you to all of the supporters of the Tapping Q&A podcast. Every single month, we take a percentage of the contribution to the podcast, and we go and we make loans on Kiva. Kiva is a microloans site that gives loans to small business owners all over the world. This month, supporters of the Tapping Q&A podcast supported Maria. Maria is a small shop owner in Timor, and she is using the loan to be able to increase her stock so that she can grow her store and can continue to take care of her family. In addition to that, because of the way that Kiva works, we were able to make 3 more contributions as we reloaned money from previous months. If you would like to receive a bunch of amazing thank you gifts, support the Tapping Q&A podcast, and be part of this great work as we support small business owners all over the world, all you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/support. So now that you have that framework as a possibility of reframing some of your boundaries and some of your relationships and renegotiating those places, we now need to get ourselves into a place where emotionally we can do that as well. And so the way that we get ourselves emotionally to do that is to do some tapping. So we're going to do a little tapping today to help us to stand up for ourselves, where we can still be kind, thoughtful, helpful people without taking responsibility for the people around us. So to begin with, tap on the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath, and just move from tapping point to tapping point and repeat after me. I know the people around me struggle because everybody has struggles. And there are times in which I can be helpful to the people around me. And I don't want to see them suffer. And I don't want to see them struggle. But there are times in which it is not best for me to be helpful. There are times where it's not best for the relationship for me to swoop in and solve the problem. There's a part of me that feels bad when I'm not helpful. There's a part of me that feels bad when I see other people struggle. But I can't be in a situation where I solve everyone's problems all the time. I can't be in a situation where I take responsibility for other people's lives. Even though there's a part of me that feels like I need to help, I recognize there are times where that is not useful in the long term. I recognize the fact that that is not healthy in the long term. It is possible for me to be responsible to my loved ones without being responsible for my loved ones. It is possible for me to be helpful without helping right away all the time. It is good for me to create boundaries. It is healthy for me to create boundaries. It is necessary for me to create boundaries. I can be kind. I can be thoughtful. I can be helpful. I can be loving and not take on the responsibility of everyone else's problems. There is a part of me that struggles with finding this balance. It is important I find the balance. Creating these boundaries isn't mean. Creating these boundaries isn't thoughtless. Creating these boundaries isn't heartless. Creating boundaries is a necessity for me. I give myself permission to create boundaries. I give myself permission to learn how to create boundaries. Nice deep breath. Yes, I know that one is really hard because I know the type of person you are, because I know the type of people who listen to this podcast. You're the person that everybody comes to, and I'm glad there are people like you in the world, but I need you to take care of yourself. I need you to create healthy boundaries, because if you don't, there are going to be long-term consequences for you. It's just not healthy. It's a simple thing. It's a small thing. It's not an all or nothing thing. Even if you just get 20% better at this, you're going to be healthier and your relationships are going to be healthier. If you know someone in your life who also struggles with this, because oftentimes caring people cluster together, please share this with them. Give them permission to take care of themselves as well. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, please let me know. I can always be reached, Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. You can also click on the contact link right there in the website. If you've downloaded the app, because we have this amazing Tapping Q&A app that you can find for both Apple and Android devices, just go to the App Store for your respective device. Not only do you have access to audios just like this, there's some bonus audios in there, and every single time we do a tap along, we include the tapping script right in the app, so you can just take a look right there and tap along to it if you don't want to take the time to listen to what we are doing. If you haven't done so already, go to the website, sign up for the 10-part guide to learn how you can eliminate self-sabotage, tappingqa.com. And as always, thank you for listening. This is episode 400. Hopefully we'll continue well into the future sharing great resources like this. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Monterastelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Monterastelli, Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Monterastelli or Tapping Q&A.